folks, Quill18 here, and welcome to another episode of a Let's Play Kerbal Space Program. It's our modded career game, and today we're going to do a very fun mission. We are going to do this Eve flyby mission, and what's interesting about it is that they actually, to complete this mission, we're actually going to have to transmit or recover, although, spoiler alert, it's going to be transmit, some science from the high Evian atmosphere, which means we have to hit the air of Eve. Now, it's possible for us to clip that air and then still, go back into space and do some other maneuvers or go into orbit or something like that. Maybe we want to. We could always just stick a satellite in orbit of Eve. But I think, here's what I want to do. I want to build an unmanned probe, fling it at Eve, and not just complete the, low space and flying high science. I actually want to go and plunge this thing into the surface of Eve, transmitting science from the low atmosphere. And in fact, there's no reason why we couldn't land on Eve, I would think. Now, we don't have a SETI contract for that yet, which is kind of annoying. We need to complete the Eve flyby contract first. But unless it requires a new vessel, we might be able to complete these two, transmit the science really fast, then accept the Eve landing contract in one go. It could happen! I don't know. Anyway, we've got some science, we've got some money. One of the things I'm tempted to do is upgrade our tracking station to the max, which will give us better signal range to our probe, which might prove to be absolutely key. But the other question is there any science that we need here that will require us to unlock, to upgrade the science center so that we can unlock higher tier science? I'm not sure that there is. I think we're going to be fine. We've got a lot of science that we can still unlock at this level. So, I don't know if there are more things we need to be worried about here. Like, the Poodle liquid fuel engine is great for 2.5 meter parts, but I don't think our probe has to be that heavy. I don't think we need to unlock the large 2.5 meter parts. I think this is going to be fairly light. The biggest question mark will simply be how heavy will our science experiments be. I think that's pretty much all. What is this thing? Asteroid sounding experiments. Asteroid only experiment. Well, we're not doing that today. Goliath turbofan engine, supersonic flight. We're not going to do any of that, although we should do some more airplane stuff soon. We're not building a rover, so I don't think we need to worry about that. We might want to get some more MechJeb features. I don't know if we need the RCS. These are pre-built components from one of the mods. I guess the USI mods, which I haven't really played with, and I don't know if we need to. We can get better command modules here, but we don't need those. Lander pod's kind of cool as a concept. Oh, is this the inflatable heat shield? Okay, here's the thing. If we're going to Eve, Eve is basically Venus. It has an atmosphere. It's very hot. It's a very thick atmosphere, which makes it very difficult to lift off from. But it does mean that you can use parachutes to land on it. And in particular, this inflatable heat shield is amazing to double as both a heat shield as well as a tremendous sort of parachute to slow yourselves down for a fair bit. So I think what we're going to do, apparently we can unlock this right away, so I will go ahead and do that. We don't need the crazy big things. Advanced exploration. We can get the multi-imaging platform, which can be used in orbit. I don't think we're going to worry about it for this particular flight. Core drill. I'm betting we can't really transmit it. Yeah, only 30% science from transmitting, so... survey scanners, that's not really what we're looking to do. At some point, we'll get contracts to put orbits in orbit, or satellites in orbit around Eve. We'll probably look into more of that stuff. There we go, satellite stuff. Goresat, 100% transmission. Only used from high orbit. I don't know if it's worth... It's pretty light, though, at 0.02 tons. Yeah, okay. And it comes with a universal storage component, so we'll look in that. I don't know what we're... We could unlock some more probe cores or better electrics, as well as a better antenna. Okay, so we're going to unlock you into this for the Goresat to unlock some more science. Heat management system. I don't know if we need that for Eve or not. It might be super critical, or it might be completely unnecessary. I think we're going to leave it off. I think we're going to leave things here and then see what we can do. Okay, so our mission now is to design something that is designed... I guess we can probably softly land on Eve. Therefore, we can do a surface transmission. That's going to be okay. It doesn't have to move, and it's never going to come back. We actually don't need any sort of boosters or anything like that on our landing stage. We just need to make sure we've got some sort of parachute presence, and that will be sufficient. We've got that SETI probe stack. That's true. And from a mod, which may or may not make things easier for us. I don't know if it's actually relevant. But it's got the built-in thermometer, which is nice, and a fair amount of battery power. It's so damn light. It feels like it's overpowered, but that's okay. We'll use it anyway. You know, I try not to use mods that make things easier. In fact, I try to use mods to make things harder. Now, for our tech, it's certainly more efficient if we can get everything in these little packages. We may want to send like a material bay, a goo canister to do that. Although we're not going to be able to repeat the experiments, so we're only going to do it once. We get the most from waiting till we're on the surface to do it. But it might not make sense to carry something all the way that we're only going to use once, whereas everything else, at least we can transmit it multiple times. The problem is this: how are we going to fit all of our experiments in a way that we are kind of pleased? And I think we're going to probably make use of the just the octo-core. What is this thing? Oh, the self-destruct. We may actually end up needing a couple octopores. I'll put a second one on there right away. Let's see. So the Goresat looks like it's going to be good. The magnometer, also good. The Mystery Goo, no. The orbital telescope, probably not, because again, I'm worried that it's not going to be that useful. I guess we want the pressure mat, so we're doubling up on thermometers, but that's okay. And the solar particle collector, only 20% transmission. Like, there's sort of no point in bringing it. So all of a sudden, we're like, we only need 3 wedges. Maybe we're not going to use the wedges after all. And we've got some more experiments available here. How big is this? So we could maybe stick it inside just a utility wedge. Surface ablation. So this 100% only while in low and high orbit. Still, it can be doubled up. A lot of the orbit stuff can be run from the sun as well, actually. So I don't think we were bringing the orbital telescope, and I'm realizing now that it probably is worth bringing the orbital telescope, because we can probably get that science from around the sun, and then the antenna for some tech that way. Now, so I'm going to get rid of the second bit here. Obviously, this looks a little funny to be exposed like this, but I don't know if that matters. I'm really not sure. What we are going to want are some batteries here. Now, these guys are the tiny ones. I'm going to want a double dose of these at the very least. And then it might be fine to go and put you there. Now, the other thing we need is communications antenna. It doesn't have to be a relay, but it has to have the best possible strength, because we're going pretty far. So we got a couple of 15. This is direct. This is a relay. Yeah, this direct is a lot lighter. It's still pretty goddamn big. Is this the way we want to run things? It's huge. 2G, I mean, I think we have to. Now, what does this look like deployed? Like that. Doesn't feel very, you know, even or sturdy. Although, it's probably okay. What we might want is a extra set of reaction wheels in here. In fact, I think I like that idea quite a bit. Now, there are reaction wheels built into that. It might be enough, but let's go ahead and, you know, not screw around here. There we go. Lots of reaction wheels, so we're going to be able to use that for a good amount of control authority. We're going to have to figure out somewhere to put parachutes. So I want a pair of these guys. And then we do need a base to sort of land on, which might end up being legs of some kind. I might just be able to mount them on the outside of this thing. It looks a little silly, perhaps, and it's going to be a little tricky to find the spot, but like the micro landing struts. Okay, it's not a little silly, it's very silly, but... Oh, it's not doing the symmetry the way I expected. Now, we could do this. There's certainly some interpenetration, but not much. It looks a little silly, but I don't think this will break the game. We can test it on the launch pad here. And did I put drogue chutes? I put drogue chutes because I'm competent. Although, here's the thing. They don't have to be drogues with the real chute. I think we can use the smaller size pod, but use them as small main chutes. We can test this to make sure it works out okay. The other thing is we can choose, I think, a planet. I thought we could. I want a single chute. Oh, target planet Eve. There we go, which is going to tweak some of the weights and things like that. Now, obviously, it's looking a little uneven here, but that's part of what the reaction wheels are going to be there for. We also need to cram a crap ton of solar panels on this. You see why I'm like a little concerned about how we're going to place everything. It's funny because it's so tiny. I think we are going to want retractables, and I'm hoping, if I turn off the snap, can I get them to snap onto the outside of this bit? Yes and no, that's not really going to work. I may just have to like figure out a bigger base size to get this to function. I could also toss away one of these layers at some point. Because we're going to need a fair amount of solar power. And just one extended out this way. I mean, as long as it sits idle for a while and then fills up the batteries, I mean, this is probably going to be enough once it's landed. I just wish this antenna wasn't so ridiculous, but, I mean, what real option do we have? It's also not centered. I guess there's no reason why. With still twin symmetry, put it up a little higher, and then take these guys and maybe mount them down here with, say, quad symmetry. That's not too shabby. Actually, this one will be fairly occluded, but that's okay. I mean, that sort of looks reasonable for a lander, doesn't it? And then the idea being that on the descent, we'll retract all this, and yeah, we're gonna reset this chute. Oh, this is just texture, so that doesn't really matter. And I want it to use a main chute, not a drogue one. Yeah, reapply all that, make sure you're tweaked up. In theory, that should work. I mean, the problem is we're not going to know until we get to Eve whether or not we set up these parachutes correctly. So, you know, no pressure. But yeah. I don't remember. It's probably under thermal. There we go, this heat shield. Oh, I didn't realize the base for it was so tiny. Which is interesting. Oh, no, okay, it's 0. So there's a small version of this. That's the shroud. I don't know. So that to protect us as we enter, and to slow us down a fair bit, and then at some point we put out the parachutes, which is hopefully going to be sufficient. I don't know if that's going to work, but we're going to hope. And then we stack decoupler, and it's only shrouding up to there, which is a little bit annoying, but I guess it's fine. Yeah, I guess that's okay. And then we need something. Now, we're not set up for, like, ion thrusters or anything like that, but that's all right. Maybe something like a 400 tank plus a liquid carrier engine. And that's giving us 2,000 delta V, which is a fair bit. Now, I should load up the chart transfer over there. We don't actually have to slow ourselves down when we get into the Evian system. All we have to make sure to do is that we're going to be intersecting Eve at a certain altitude. Enough to hit the air so that we get slowed down, and the rest of it will do the trick. So I suspect that this will be okay. But it is only suspicion. I don't actually know for sure. There's probably going to be some horrible disaster along the way. I don't know what our weights are. We'll have to go and check on that in a second. If I just put a swivel down here, what are we looking at? Staging's okay, right? 1.14 surface level thrust. So this would take off fairly slowly, but isn't too bad. Oh, yeah, still didn't actually turn on the advanced tweakables option. You know what? Hang on. Eve Lander Probe Mark 1. We don't know if this will work, but we'll see. Can I turn on advanced tweakables from here? Because I may want it for the auto thrust feature as well. Advanced tweakables. Excellent. Thank you. So this gives you a couple more tools in your right-click menu. This was added, I don't know, is it like 1.2 or something like that? So one thing it does is enable some auto strut stuff, some rigid attachment. Rigid attachment means you don't get the wobble, although it can cause things to snap a little bit more. So there's pros and cons. Auto struts just means it's putting down struts for you effectively, which doesn't matter too much. Although here, I think what I might do is something like strut yourself to the root part, and that might avoid a little bit of wobble on the ascent. But it also gives us a few more fuel flow options, which is going to be nice. So we're going to want to do some asparagasing over here. Hang on, let me copy you, grab you, symmetry mode, go, and do this. And then, if we show the fuel overlay, and we enable crossfeed, and we say these outer ones are a higher priority to drain fuel from. Oh, did they automatically set a priority? Oh, 30. There you go. Why is this flowing upwards? It just mirrors it look kind of odd. Low priority is better for this. It should all end up in the middle, but that's not what it's looking like. Alright, am I crazy? I don't know why it's doing that. I'm pretty sure this is right. I guess what we could do is do a little test launch and see. Also, we need to fix our engine activation. Maybe that's what some of the confusion was. Is that possible? No. Alright, light all the engines down here, go there. We could auto strut down here, but I prefer the actual look of like confirming that, yep, we got some struts over there. 5,400 meters per second delta V is pretty darn close. Not quite there, but pretty darn close. So I think what we're going to do is grab you, go and do that. We're going to make sure that you get staged first. And it vaguely looks like it's doing the right thing, but I actually have no idea. Yeah, we'll have to do a little test. 5700, just in curiosity, if I were to go and put down the fuel ducts, absolutely no difference in the delta V. So I think it is flowing successfully the way we want. So this outer layer is going to run out first, then this layer, and then finally the middle. So the question is this enough delta V to get us to Eve? And I think the answer is that it's at the very least really, really close. Thrust to weight is pretty high to start off with, so yeah, light all the engines, then go there. I'm not convinced that this is doing what we want. Let me take a second. This is not necessarily our real launch here. We still have to put on a nose cone here. I want to confirm how this stuff is flowing. I suppose I don't even need to be flying, technically. I could just, like, hook up some supports to the ground and not leave, but that's okay. SAS on, full throttle. Hit the gas. Okay, yeah, the middle tanks are full. These should be draining quite quickly, and the others are not. And then, if I stage and go up again, these are now draining, and the middle is not. Looks like the asparagus staging is working correctly. Okay, so we'll go ahead and revert to vehicle assembly. Now, in our outermost layer, I'm not going to make the mistake of last time. Outermost layer is these guys. On those, I'm going to put the Reliant engines. That way, we're going to have 3 swivels for much, much, much longer. So we get a little bit more oomph, and that's going to be okay. You are not staged correctly. There we go. We do something more like that. We've got a crazy amount of early thrust, but I guess that's going to be all right. And I guess way down here, we'll put in the... Is it under payload? It's under payload. Is that going to let me do that? It is going to let me do that. All right. There we go. Something like that. I don't even need to... I probably don't need to deploy this... actually, I kind of do. You know what? There you go. Something like that is likely going to be the order that things happen in. I do need to get rid of this before I decouple above it, because then I think weird things would happen. Okay. KSP Delta V map. So just try to get some approximate numbers for a path to Eve. So, where's Kerbal? Kerbal. So, again, about maybe 4K to get into low orbit, which isn't entirely true, but let's assume this is not a very good version of the map. I know you guys can't see it, but trust me, it was not a handy one. Here we are. So, about 3,200 or change for low orbit. 4,000 for the sphere of influence edge. Probably about 4,100. Eve intercept, you're looking at these numbers are listed a little bit odd. Not much delta V though. Most of it's to get into orbit. I think we have more than enough, way more than enough to get to Eve, even if we F things up, which is nice to see. I guess one of the big questions will actually be about what time to do the transfer, but we'll get to orbit and then we can always just fast forward and get things going at that point. So you got all your struts down. You should be relatively stable. I think we can go for this launch. Hopefully I haven't forgotten anything critical, but we've got plenty of science and in theory a way to broadcast it back. We did not upgrade the tracking station yet, but we have a lot of money. I expect that partway to Eve we will in fact lose our signal, but if we upgrade our tracking station, that'll probably give us enough oomph to get there. So we'll just use the surface mode to start off with. That's going to be fine. Full throttle and go. We're actually going to launch quite quickly here. We've got a lot of thrust, and we may in fact want to pull back a little bit just to avoid some amount of aerodynamic drag. Of course, gravity drag is generally more significant than aerodynamic drag, so more thrust is often better. But I mean, just like everything in life, there's a bit of a limit before it starts to become a little bit wacky. If we're below 10,000 meters, I probably don't want to go too far above 300 meters per second, which I think is going to be the case. So we will throttle back just a scooch here, because yeah, our surface level thrust is really high, and we are going to... Oops, no, that was the wrong button. That was the wrong button. Okay. You did not see that. You did not see that. I meant to go prograde, but I hit the retrograde button. So, yeah, because once you sort of start your gravity curve, your gravity turn, really you can just lock prograde, and you're set. Might be safer if I were just using these guys, but no, it's fine. It's fine. degrees, ready to go. So yeah, we'll go at 100% throttle for now. We'll execute the 10-degree turn, then probably throttle down a scooch, and then set ourselves to prograde. Not retrograde, but prograde. Just going to wait for the prograde to hit about 10%. There you go. Surface prograde is engaged at this point. And probably okay. So we'll throttle back just a little bit. Acceleration is still fantastic. Time to apoapsis is still climbing very quickly. Some aerodynamic pressure going on here, but we are starting to climb. So I think we're kind of in a sweet spot in terms of our actual curve speed. We're probably a little steep. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. We're certainly on the steep side. I'm going to try to encourage a dip down to about 60 at this point. And we'll throttle back up so that we've got full control authority over here. There's going to be some wibble wobble over here, but that's okay. And then as 15 degrees, or 15K comes up, we're going to try to force it a little bit more to 45K. And all right. This is what happens when I start to rush things. Just out of curiosity, though, if I do this, yeah, our fuel situation is good. Okay. I'm going to stop rushing the goddamn thing and just do it manually. It's going to be so much better. I forgot that this is a little less aerodynamically stable, and I really can't, you know, force things. So if I'm just in SAS mode, so I'm not going to go and do anything. We'll do it a little bit more gradually. My apologies for this, folks. And it's entirely because I'm just trying to go fast, because I want to get to orbit by the end of this episode so that we can then pick it up after that. So I'm going to manually pitch over to 10 degrees while keeping myself mostly within the prograde circle. Because what happens with the Smart ASS is it does it really quick. It tries to pull up over very, very fast. So there's a lot of control authority here with all of this. I'm still, you know what? It's actually not reporting the fuel here. Oh, hold on. I didn't realize that after these drain, I think the engines start to grab fuel from the center, because the engines don't stop burning. Oh, that's interesting. So I actually have to manually keep an eye on the fuel in the side tanks here if I'm not using... oops, I'm pitching over too much because I'm paying attention to this stuff. But that's okay. Let's go ahead and do this. And then, you know what? You can just hold prograde now. In fact, I'm wrong. I'm going to have to manually dip you down a little bit more. Interesting. I wonder if there's a way for the... Because the middle's not draining. Yeah, so I mean, the asparagusing is working, but it's not being as explicit. I don't know if there's a way to turn on... I keep rotating because I got my fingers in the wrong way. We're still going up way too steeply. Our time to apoapsis is climbing very high. Being too distracted by too many things. There we go. Bring that down. Yeah, that's there's got to be a way to tweak some of these mechanics. Oh well. What's our apo? And our height here is good. Okay, we'll try to flatten out here. We're in thin enough atmosphere that I'm comfortable pushing this. Although we're nearly at 100K, and I really don't want to go above that, so let's kill that now. So far from ideal. Yeah, this is proving to be quite the distraction here. Oh, you can be deployed. Save us a little bit of weight as well. Interesting. So we're just going to cruise. You can lock yourself prograde to just minimize drag a little bit. We're going to cruise to the edge of the atmosphere, which we have now reached. We will then plan our circularization maneuver. Again, I'm not necessarily going to follow it exactly. It's more of a question of getting an approximate burn timer. So it's going to take about 30 seconds. Look at this, 100 meters per second delta V to circularize, which is a lot. And that's because we went pretty steep, which I'm not happy about. So about 15 seconds, 30 seconds burn time, so about 15 seconds before apoapsis. Some of those numbers might change a little bit because we're about to lose 2 of our engines relatively soon. But it's going to be okay. So again, I'm going to get rid of this. I'll probably start 20 seconds before the apoapsis, just to make sure. Because I think overall we're going to lose, we're going to lose some weight, but I think our thrust to weight is mostly going to go down. So 30, and stop that. Go back prograde, and go ahead for burn. I got to extend my solar panels in a second here, but we're still okay. And ditch. I mean, in a sense, it's smart because extend antenna. If you do have, I'm looking for my solar panels, the engines still attached to your ship, you should be using them, because otherwise they're just adding dead weight. But I use the engines turning off as a visual clue as to when I need to do my next stage. There you go. Power's out, antenna's out. Periapsis is coming up now. Our camera angle is going to change in just a second. As soon as the periapsis is above 25K, it's going to reorientate the camera. There it goes. And as soon as it's above 70, there we go. Pretty good. All right. Well, that's that. So we got to put a cut in here. But next episode, we are going to be looking at what we need to do to get down to Eve over here. And, in fact, we are definitely in the wrong position for this, because, in terms of orbital mechanics, Eve is in a lower orbit of Kerbal, the sun, right? It's in a lower orbit. It's in a smaller or shorter orbit. Therefore, it effectively orbits the sun faster than we do. Therefore, as we wait, it's going to get further and further ahead of us. This is not what we want, including our ship, right? The planet, but also our ship is basically synced to the planet. So right now we're going slower. So what we actually want is we want a situation where Eve is behind us, and then we're going to burn, well, retrograde relative to the sun and to drop our orbit. But we're still going to be in a higher orbit the entire time that we're dropping our orbit from one to the other, which is going to allow Eve to catch up, and then we'll sync up at the right time. So we're going to have to fast forward time a little bit before this works out, and I might do some of that in between episodes here. Thanks for watching. See you next time.